Welcome to the Life Unlimited podcast with Larry Heller. You deserve complete financial advice so you can confidently live your life your way, for life. Now, let's get into this week's podcast episode.
Hello and welcome to Life Unlimited with Larry Heller from Heller Wealth Management. Larry, how are you?
Hi, Eric. I am doing much better. I'm doing terrific today. How about yourself?
Fantastic. I know that you've got a guest for the show today and you're going to let me read his bio, right?
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's get to it. All right, you have Reid Stone, and Reid is the founder and CEO of My Life's Encore, or MLE. My Life's Encore provides resources and guidance to financial organizations and corporations to help their clients and employees prepare and plan for the non-financial side of retirement, or as he refers to it, the other side of retirement. Reid's goal is to help clients answer the question, what is my life's encore? Which I think is a beautiful question. A question that is at the heart of planning for a successful and happy retirement. He is the co-author of the book, The Retirement Challenge, a non-financial guide from top retirement experts, and author of the white paper for the financial advice industry, The Strategic Value of Helping Clients Plan Their Ideal Lifestyle in Retirement, planning the non-financial aspects of retirement in an age of longevity. And Larry, you and I have talked about longevity a lot. I mean, this is a specific topic you've done multiple podcasts on. Also, Reid is a certified professional retirement coach, which is a CPRC for those keeping track at home, and a member of the Retirement Coaches Association, RCA. Reid, I'm so glad you could join us on the show. Larry brings the best guest to the show.
Thanks, Eric. Great to be here.
Larry, I'm going to go ahead and get myself off camera here so you guys can have a great conversation. I'll learn along with the audience. Thank you so much.
Great. Super, Eric. Thank you. So let me just kind of, for our audience, we have a lot of clients and a lot of people that tune in that are approaching retirement, already in retirement, or transitioning into retirement. And some of them adapt really well. Some of them adapt well right in the beginning and then have some trouble. And some of them have a big problem on the non-financial side. So we always thought when we're talking to potential clients, paint me a picture of your life 5 years, 10 years down the road. And people, start to, but they want to ask financial questions and look at the money questions. And we're trying to kind of figure out what is that life going to be like so we can create a financial plan for them. So we get into the money side and we talk a little bit about what they want to do and how they want to live. But what I've been seeing, and we've just had a recent client like this, is they don't know sometimes what they really want to do. Their whole purpose has been work. So a big area that I've seen growing are some retirement coaches such as Reid. So I thought I'd bring Reid on and we can talk a lot about the non-financial side. So Reid, thank you for joining us. And let's just jump into really the first question. Why is it important to really focus in on the non-financial side of retirement?
I think you raise a good point right away, Larry, is so many people get to retirement and they're just not prepared. If you think about the way that we approach retirement, retirement's this huge goal that we've been saving for all of our lives, right? But when we get there, I think we have this certain expectation in our minds of what retirement should be like. So, as you said, too, a lot of people reach that decision to get to retirement, but they're not certain what it looks like. If you ask them a lot of times, what are you going to do in retirement? A lot of people can't tell you, other than maybe doing some activities like playing golf or gardening or travel or things like that. So I think the first thing, Larry, on why it's important to plan for these non-financial aspects of retirement is just simply there are so many aspects to consider. And people don't really realize how many different things there are to think about. A lot of times we lump them into broad categories and we lump them into the physical, the mental, the social, and the spiritual. I'd like to go a little bit further on that, and different retirement coaches will break them down in different ways, but here's kind of the 7 broad areas that I put them into. So the first one is purpose and identity. We need to figure out what our purpose and identity is. A A lot of the purpose and identity and what we want to do and who we want to be in retirement is driven by our values and beliefs. So if we can really figure out what our values and beliefs are, we can start to figure out a little bit more about who we are, who we want to be, what's our identity and our purpose going to be. Work and learning is another category. Leisure and travel is another category. Health and activity, family and friends, and home and location. That's kind of how I divide them into all of these areas. And if you think about all of those areas as kind of a pie chart, everybody will have different aspects that are more important to them. So some people's pie pieces will be much larger than other people's. So everybody's got a different mixture of all of these and how they approach them. So I think the number of aspects is kind of the first thing. I think the second thing is simply that retirement may last a long time. And a lot of people are starting to see that and starting to understand that. But if you think about, we could spend much of our time, we could spend 25 to 30 years, which is about as much time as many people spent in the workforce. So I think just the understanding that retirement's going to last a long time. I think another thing that it's important to plan for these non-financial aspects is it keeps us from what I term as failing in retirement. In other words, getting to retirement, if we don't plan for these things, we think they're just going to work out. If we get to retirement, people tend to struggle in retirement. A lot of times they can't really put words to what's happening or why it doesn't feel like they thought it would when they would get there. So creating a non-financial plan, for instance, it keeps us from losing our purpose, becoming bored, not having social interaction, which can lead to isolation, loneliness, depression in some cases. It saves people if we plan for the non-financial aspects prior to retirement. It saves a lot of people from wasting the first few years of retirement trying to figure it out. A lot of people will get into retirement, and I call this the honeymoon phase of retirement, where they're excited. They've got all these different plans and things that they want to do and see and accomplish.
Bucket list items.
Huh?
Bucket list items.
Yeah, a lot of times it's bucket list items. But once they check off all of those bucket list items, now they kind of say, well, now what? Or what's next? And checking those off the list might take a year, it might take 2 years, 5 years, whatever. But if we, again, look at how long retirement can be for people, planning for that extensive time is really critical. I think the other important thing about what I term failing at retirement is a lot of times people will lose their motivation in retirement. So they'll kind of get there and things aren't working out. So they won't continue learning. They won't continue with physical activity, mental activity, eating healthy, pursuing activities like traveling, and other things that they'd hope to do. A lot of times too, Larry, is people get to retirement and they just believe that everything will work itself out. I've spent my whole life saving for retirement. The money side of it is good. I'm set. Why wouldn't retirement be great? And what we find a lot of times is when people get there, it's just not what they envision. So a lot of times too, it's interesting if you ask people if retirement is going well, they'll kind of say it is, but a lot of times it's not, and they'll be really afraid to actually say, yeah, retirement's not working out. Something doesn't feel right. And so I think we need to, the important reason to plan for these non-financial aspects up front is to get people to really talk about some of these things, these fears, these concerns that people have that go beyond the money side of, do I have enough money for retirement? Will my money last long enough? It's, am I going to lose my purpose and identity? Am I going to be able to stay healthy? Am I going to lose a lot of my friends? All of these other things that are these non-financial aspects, people need to really spend some time thinking about. And The most successful people I've seen who transition into retirement successfully and happily are the ones that have simply spent some time planning for these non-financial aspects in addition to their financial.
Now, Reid, you mentioned like 7 different items, because what I find is that when clients are retiring, they have a couple of those kind of checked off. They may have certain hobbies, or they want to play more golf and travel. But like you said, people are living longer. In my book, Retire Right, I talk about the second act.
Yep.
And so there are so many other areas that they may or may not need to focus in on. One is the mental aspect. We find that if somehow you can keep your brain working better, you're less inclined to develop possibly dementia and Alzheimer's, and keep that brain going. So how do you do that if you're just basically playing golf and tennis and not doing that? So what steps you can do for that? You talk about purpose. We had a client who was a 30-year corporate executive. His purpose was tied to that corporation. So now what is his purpose in life? So trying to do that. And of course, health-wise, as everyone ages, not everyone ages the best. So how do they eat better? How do they maintain that and really be proactive along those lines? So many of those things are important. And people sometimes don't even know what they should be doing. We spoke to a client yesterday, and he's happy because he's not working. So he was just so burnt out. So he thinks he's happy in retirement because he's not working. He gets up, he works out for a few hours, does some things around the house, reads a book, and he's very happy. Will that be enough for him for 20 years? Who knows?
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point, Larry, in that a lot of people go into retirement thinking that they're getting away from something at work, right? So work isn't fulfilling them. They've reached a certain height. They don't like their job, their boss, whatever. So they think that retirement's going to make things better. But a lot of times many of the things you talked about, the health aspects, some of those things, people bring those with them into retirement. So unless they do some of this planning prior to retirement, a lot of the feelings and the things that they have going on prior to retirement are just going to be exacerbated or heightened in retirement because they now have more time that they need to fill. So
yep. And so I kind of look at what's going on now, and kind of what you're doing is kind of maybe what I did in the beginning of my career, when people were talking about financial planners and do you really need a financial planner out there? So why don't you tell us, what is retirement coaching and how does it work, and why is it so valuable?
Sure. So I'll give you a kind of a simple definition, and then I'll just give you some bullet points of what I believe retirement coaching and good retirement coaching is. And put very simply, I define it as retirement coaching is helping people think about and design what life in retirement looks like. A lot of times I'll explain it as, how do you create your ideal life in retirement is really what you need to do. And that's what a retirement coach helps people do, is create that ideal life in retirement. It's not a one-time fix a few things and like a lot of people think you come to a retirement coach right before you're going to make the decision to retire and you talk about a few things and that's it. It's not that. It is a process. It is a retirement coach. What a retirement coach will do is take people through a process which includes listening to the clients, what they're experiencing, what they're thinking, what they expect life in retirement to look like. It includes thoughtful discussion with the clients around all of these topics that we talked about earlier, how all of these topics fit together in many ways. How all of these topics fit together with their financial side is another piece, although We focus just entirely on the non-financial aspects. A lot of these aspects do dovetail with the financial side. It involves helping clients look at some of these non-financial aspects and answer some questions. And so one of the areas is, how do we replace our work identity? So who will we be and what do we want to do now that work is not the focal point of our life? So that's kind of a big one. Building a new purpose is another one. What is important and meaningful to people? How do we allocate our time? So now that we have all of this extra time to fill, how do we want to use our time? How will we divide our time between work and leisure, for instance? And retirement coaches like myself believe that there's so many good aspects to work. And so it's very hard for people, I think, to go 100 miles an hour in their work career, stop it, and then just go focus all of their time on leisure and play activities. That's really difficult. Another area that retirement coaches help with is helping people stay connected. We know how important relationships are as we age, and how that helps us age better. And one of the things that people don't realize is when they leave their work career, a lot of those relationships that they've built, a lot of these people that they've considered friends, are left behind. And so when we get to retirement, we've got to figure out ways to either continue some of those work connections that we really enjoyed, or build some new connections through our new purpose, our new activities that we enjoy. The other question that, or the other kind of topic that retirement coaches help clients with, is staying relevant, because we need to figure out what things we want to stay involved with that make us feel like we're still contributing. It's hard when we get to retirement and all of a sudden we were somebody in our previous career, and now what we did previously doesn't matter in a lot of cases, our title, our status, that sort of thing. And then the other thing that retirement coaches help clients with is staying physically and mentally active. So what ways can we continue to stay physically and mentally challenged and active? And then what ways might we want to improve or build on our physical and mental health? So
Yeah, all good things. Actually, I think I just read something in the New York Times that not having, social relationships actually leads to premature death. So all these things that are coming out and being able to focus in on, and just getting people to understand that, like you said, before they retire, so they can put some plan in place out there. So how do you get the word out? How does somebody find a retirement coach?
Well, there's a couple of ways that people can identify retirement coaches. A lot of people are simply doing searches. I've been found by people doing Google searches. There's an organization that I'm a part of called the Retirement Coaches Association, Larry. Mm-hmm. And so people can go to the Retirement Coaches Association website. And on that website, there is a Find a Coach, I believe, drop down, and you can search for coaches by state if you're looking for a coach in your state. A lot of coaches work via Zoom. They do Zoom calls, so they work remotely a lot of times with people. So it's just doing a search in your, if you want to find somebody in your area who you can meet with in person, I would do a search locally. Go to the RCA website to search for a coach is a good place. The coaches on the RCA website, most of them have been trained as retirement coaches. They have coached clients for a long period of time. Many of those retirement coaches have gone through a similar transition in their lives themselves, or they know people close to them, spouses, for instance, who've gone through similar transitions. So they're really experienced in understanding all of the different issues that and challenges that people have when they retire.
So that's great to hear. So you're finding people are actually proactively reaching out for help in the non-financial retirement areas.
Yeah, more and more. It's still such a new area, and it's really a new area because retirement is changing. There are so many more people that are reaching retirement age. We talk about the boomers a lot of times, but Gen X is coming up. They're bumping up on, I think, age 50 now is kind of the average age. There's just so many people in that age group. People's definitions of retirement are changing. So they're starting to realize, with longevity mixed into this, that they do need some help trying to figure this out, because if they're going to retire at, let's say, 55, and they know that there's a good chance that they're going to live until 85 or 90, that what am I going to do for the next 35 years? So people are starting to read more about this, just like you read the New York Times article. There's more and more articles coming out about this. More and more people who are in retirement are sharing their experience about what's working and what's not working. So as more of this information comes out, more and more people are starting to ask those questions and say, I need some help with this. I don't feel like I can read a book and do it on my own. I need somebody to guide me, which is another thing that retirement coaches do. Sometimes a retirement coach will need to step in and really hold people accountable for the things that they did say that they wanted to do in retirement, and things that they needed to change about their approach to retirement. So, yeah, just I think.
So what do you think the best or the ideal age, or maybe not the age, but how many years before their really retirement should someone speak to a coach?
I broadly tell people usually 3 to 5 years before retirement. I think that is very dependent upon the actual person, because some people are very proactive. And if somebody's very proactive and they're going to put in the time and the time and energy to work with a retirement coach to figure this out, they can maybe do this a couple of years before retirement. Some people, as you know, they put things off, and you tell them to do something and they won't do it, and they'll just procrastinate. Those people tend to need to be on that longer time frame, so that it gives them enough time to process and take in all of this information. Some people too, Larry, just simply need to test drive retirement, and the more that they can do that prior to going into retirement, the better off they'll be. So some people might say, hey, I want to move to this location in retirement. Well, try it out. If you can do that prior to retirement, move to that location for a short period of time and see if that's actually where you want to live. So it kind of depends upon the client, and but generally 3 to 5 years, I think, works.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. We have people that want to relocate, and I always recommend they rent first, see if that's a place that they want to be in, and they have this vision of what their retirement is going to be. But even just keeping every day, the day to day, just the amount of hours that you would spend commuting pre-pandemic, maybe, and then working that you now have free. So let me ask you a question. So you're most of the clients you're speaking to from a financial standpoint, that's really not kind of what the retirement coaching is. It's really the non-financial planning aspects. You're assuming that whatever game plan they have set up on a financial standpoint is not going to have an impact on how they do these other 7 areas.
Correct. It really is. I explain it this way, that it's really 2 pieces of a puzzle that people need to fit together in order to decide whether or not they can retire. A lot of times people only look at that from the financial side. They'll say, I need to save X number of dollars in order, when I save that amount of money, I'm going to retire. Or they'll say, when I reach this age, I'm going to retire. Or it's a combination of those 2. The problem is when they only look at it from that standpoint, they're missing all of these other aspects that we talk about. So some of the things that we talk about as retirement coaches, we stay away from the financial stuff. Financial advisors handle that. We handle the non-financial, but the 2 pieces really go together. There are times where when clients tell us what they want to do, when we talk about some of these things, like one of the topics we talk about a lot is home and location. Where do you want to live in retirement? Well, if somebody hasn't had a conversation with their financial advisor about buying a second home in Arizona or buying an RV or spending 6 months in Europe in retirement, and they talk to us about that, then what we say is make sure and talk to your financial advisor about that. So some of the things that we do help clients with do cross over into that financial area, but we suggest that they work with their financial advisor to say, here's the plan. I think it's a lot easier for a financial advisor too. If a client has all of these different non-financial aspects figured out and they come and they talk to a professional like you and they say, here's what my life in retirement looks like, it's a lot easier, I think, on the financial side to say, okay, here's all the things that you want to do in retirement. Here's what your income's going to be based on your portfolio size. It's a lot easier to plan that out, isn't it? If somebody has their life in retirement kind of planned out. So,
yeah, I mean, we don't even know how to start. We kind of start with that because I need to know what they want. Because on a financial standpoint, a lot of people actually don't spend as much money as they can in retirement because they're afraid of not doing certain things. So I say, let's start with what you take a clean sheet and list all the things that you want to do. And then we'll see if we could do that financially, but start with what you want to do. What's going to make you happy in life? What's going to keep you engaged? Sometimes a little challenging when husband and wife are on different pages and you got to figure out how to mesh that together. But I mean, that's the fun part for me, talking about that. And it's great when the numbers work, but for them able to accomplish what they want to do, whether we have had clients that photography was their passion and they retired a couple of years early so they can do that and make it a semi-hobby business. And seeing that, doing that and putting a gallery together and enjoying that. And that's really what gives them purpose in life. So being able to see people do that. We have other clients that, they want to really take care of, they've been successful and take care of grandchildren and spending time with them and traveling with them and doing that and putting game plans together for that. And isn't that what's life's all about? I mean, the money's great, but you want to have these other connections for the next 20, 30 years of your life. So I think it's so important what you're doing, and people should be reaching out to retirement coaches and financial planners, and you can be successful in both. Having a financial retirement plan and a non-financial retirement plan will help you be more successful, live longer, live better, I believe. So any last words you kind of want to say to the audience out there, Reid?
Yeah, just a couple of follow-up points to some things you made, Larry, and then I'll add some final comments. But you talked about spouses need to create what they want their individual retirement to look like, but they have to communicate with each other about what that looks like. We see that so often where a husband will have this idea for retirement, the spouse will have this idea, and they're completely different. So you need to talk with your spouse about what you want your retirement to look like. So here's a couple of things I'll end with, Larry, is I'd like people to think about and plan for retirement 25, 30 years in retirement like people plan for a 1-week vacation. People spend more time planning for a 1-week vacation than they do for 25 or 30 years in retirement. And if people just stopped and thought about that, they actually do that, because I've had conversations with people about that. I've had conversations with other retirement coaches about this. We spend a lot of time planning that 1-week vacation. Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? What am I going to see? Who am I going to spend time with? All of these different factors that come into it. But people don't put that same kind of planning into 25 or 30 years of your life. And really, it's like you said, the second half of our life. So we've only lived kind of one half now because of longevity is a big factor. So I'd ask people to do that. Spend some more time planning for that length of time. And then the other thing I would ask people to do is think about the time you spend planning for retirement as an investment. And if we think of an investment as a commitment of a resource that generates future returns, that's really what we're doing when we're planning for our life in retirement. We're creating future returns that are going to pay off. So the time we spend planning for retirement, just consider it another investment. And then the last thing I'd end on is people have to understand that it takes both sides, the financial side and the non-financial side, and putting those two pieces together for a successful and happy retirement. There's a lot of studies done on what people's fears and concerns are in retirement. And a lot of times it's around the questions they'll have are, do I have enough to retire? And will my money last? So they're concerned, like you said, a lot of people don't withdraw during the decumulation phase. They don't take out enough money as much as they can. I approach it as, if you plan for the non-financial side and you plan for the financial side, a lot of those questions and concerns go away, because now you've talked about what I want to do in retirement. The financial advisor has said you can afford to do that. Now it's just go out and live your best life, your ideal life in retirement at that point.
Absolutely. Reid, this has been great. We could talk about this for a lot longer. If anyone wants to reach out to Reid, where's the best place that someone can get in touch with you?
They can visit my website, which is mylifesencore.com, or they can reach me at reid@mylifesencore.com.
Reid, thank you so much for spending time with our audience today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Larry. It's been fun.
Guys, this has been fantastic. Sorry, I was on mute there. Didn't want to interrupt you guys. This has been fantastic. I do want to ask one question, though, Reid, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Larry has done multiple podcasts about marriage and divorce and the financial side of that, and has spoken about gray divorce or diamond divorce. I don't know how they term it anymore, but there's a lot of people that are getting divorced later in their lives. And
Yeah.
do you see that reflected in what you do? And are you not counseling? I don't want to say that, but are you coaching? There we go. Are you coaching couples in retirement as well? Because if they don't keep their own hobbies, when you are face to face with the person you've been married to, but you've gone to work and they've gone to work, and now you're spending every minute of every day, that doesn't always add up to the best thing, right? How is that working with the couples? Are you finding a lot more of that trend happening?
There is more of that trend, I think, happening just because of the numbers are showing that there's more people. Gray divorce is happening once the kids move out of the house. Once they retire, people have different visions of what retirement is. People have different visions of what their life is like moving forward. So we are seeing that. We encourage very much that couples come in and talk about retirement coaching, because if you don't talk about a lot of these things and you don't plan for it, that's gonna lead to divorce in a lot of these cases, because they haven't communicated about what they want this time to look like. And if you're not communicating, then that kind of leads people down that path, whether it's divorce, whether it's a depression, drinking. So all of these things that we kind of talk about as the dark side of retirement that don't get talked about. A lot of those things happen, and it all starts with, like anything else, it's communication. And the better the communication is, the better the odds that couples will survive into retirement and actually thrive in retirement. There's some research that shows that people thrive in retirement because their communication is better. They are spending more time, but they're figuring out how to divide their time. Things that they want to do individually, things that they want to do together. So it all comes down to communication.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm so glad that you're doing that. And one of the things you both mentioned earlier is that when the financial side is taken care of, it's a lot easier and a lot more pleasant in retirement. So Larry, if people are listening to this saying, I love the coaching aspect, but also I want to make sure that my financial side is ready to go, why don't we give them contact information so they can reach you?
Sure. They can go to my website, hellowealthmanagement.com, and click on the little schedule a 20-minute free call with us. Or you can just call the office at 631-248-3600 and set up an appointment.
Perfect. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today. This has been a great podcast.
Thank you both.
Thanks,
bet.
Eric. Thanks, Reid.
And our last thank you goes to you, the listening audience. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the Life Unlimited podcast with Larry Heller. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Larry comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. This also makes it really easy to share these podcasts with your friends and family. Again, thanks for listening. For everyone at Heller Wealth Management, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.